Hey, moms and dads, don't you just love when your child reminds you about a school project at bedtime the night before it's due? With Skylight Calendar, you can avoid those last minute oops moments. It visually displays your family schedule in one place with different colors for each family member, so you can eliminate those last minute surprises that upset your kids. Skylight Calendar is a Wi-Fi connected digital display that syncs seamlessly with all your calendars and visually showcases your family's schedule on an HD touchscreen. You can manage events, chores, and grocery lists on the go with the free Skylight app. This is a game changer for families like ours. And your happiness is Skylight's happiness. So if in 120 days you are not 100% thrilled, you can return it for a full refund, no questions asked. This is a great Mother's Day gift. And right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/calm. Go to skylightcal.com/calm for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That's skylightcal.com/calm. So what can you do when your kids interrupt you while you're on the phone? What about kids who are hyper competitive and lose it emotionally when they lose, usually right in front of all the other parents? How can you co-parent better when you have joint custody? How can you improve focus in the classroom? And I'm also going to address a teen issue, kind of be a little PG-13, so maybe don't let your kids listen to this episode. But that is what we're going to discuss on today's episode of the Calm Parenting Podcast. Welcome. This is Kirk Martin, founder of Celebrate Calm. You can find us in our big spring sale to get 50% off our programs. We try to make it just like a little bit more than one trip to a therapist's office, but you get 36 hours worth of programs, and they're really effective. You can find out at celebratecalm.com. Okay, let's go through some co-parenting issues. This is how I would frame things with your ex, realizing that you're not going to agree on your parenting approach, and they probably won't listen to you because otherwise you'd still be married. Hey, I'm writing to ask your help with a specific idea as a co-parent that I think will help the kids. And you could say this. I was listening to this podcast and the guy pointed out two things that are tough for kids who spend time in different homes. We have a son who very much likes his routine and structure. He eats the same foods, wears the same clothes, but now he has 2 bedrooms, 2 living rooms, and 2 different sets of expectations. And the podcast guy asked, hey, what if you went to work every day and you had 2 different bosses with conflicting expectations and goals, and you didn't know how to be successful or achieve your goals? You'd be frustrated and angry. So he suggested having 3 common traditions for morning, after school, and before bedtime. Side note, I like traditions because, look, rules tell you what not to do, but a tradition is something that you do every time. So, X, could we have 3 traditions that are the same in each of our homes, so at least during those 3 times of day, our kids know exactly what to expect? That would provide a level of consistency that would be settling. You can even choose the actual traditions. I don't care. And I just throw that out because your ex is probably going to accuse you of being controlling and wanting to tell him or her what to do. So you put it in their court. I just thought it'd be a good idea, so no matter whose home the kids are in, they always have the same tradition before and after school and at bedtime. And by the way, you could also get the kids involved and ask them, hey, what are some traditions you'd like to have in each of our homes? Now, a really common question we get is, hey, when our kids or my kids are over at the other parent's house, sometimes it's chaotic over there, don't have the same rules, so when they come back, they're out of sorts. Sometimes they take things out on me. And this is common, right? In most cases, there's a parent who's really engaged, has very clear rules and expectations, and there might be a parent who lets the kids do whatever they want, maybe uses screens as a babysitter, and they're generally not as engaged. So when a child comes home from the home with less order and structure, they're often out of sorts, and they'll sometimes struggle to make that transition, and they'll take kind of all that ick and frustration out on the more stable parent. So I would recommend that you have a re-entry tradition, something you do every single time your kids come home from the other parent's house. Maybe for little kids, it's a treasure hunt to get them outside and running and looking for fun stuff. Maybe it's just painting your nails with your teenage daughter or playing catch with your child. Maybe it's a special snack or just having popcorn sitting on the deck. Give your kids time to vent and just decompress, because it can be really stressful at the other home. There might be another adult the other spouse is dating, or even stepbrothers and sisters could be loud and chaotic. Maybe they get yelled at and kind of ignored, and that's a lot to process when you're a kid. So maybe your tradition is snuggling together and watching a short show or video just to decompress while eating popcorn. Maybe you give them something they're in control of, put together a puzzle together, or give them some alone time just to decompress. Just read your child in the moment. I would also just give them an opportunity to vent for a period of time, kind of a safety zone where they can say whatever they want about their other parent without you either piling on, your mom, dad is really, or dismissing it. You can just make neutral statements like, yeah, that would be really frustrating, or I'd feel hurt too. Anyway, I would try that. Let's start there. We could spend hours on co-parenting, but let's try those two. Okay, got an extremely competitive child who loves sports. When my child loses, he loses it. And I'm going to expand this to include kids playing all kinds of sports, throwing golf clubs and rackets and bats. So, number one, just know it's embarrassing. And if I were you, I would be up in the stands or along the green, in the golf course, shaking my head, fuming, swearing, I'll never let this kid play again after acting like that. All of those feelings are normal and even warranted. But I want you to practice just being completely stoic in these moments. Stoic, not emotional. Almost like it's someone else's kid, because you don't usually react to other people's kids, only your own. I think I'd want to be like that before matches and even after. It's just a good habit, helpful demeanor that may have an impact. And know that your child will not always react like this. Number two, I would take the extra time and do this. Role play with your child. Role play losing. Practice a new response to missing a putt or making a bad shot. I used to take kids who played soccer to a local soccer field, and I'd shoot on them, and I'd score again and again and again. Not to rub it in, but to practice the feeling of letting up a goal. And I would then practice a new routine for them. Hey, when you get scored on, you can't let the other guys, girls see you sweat or react. So you turn around to get the ball from the back of the net. While you're turned around, you can silently utter one curse word, up to you parents, just to express your frustration, or some other word or phrase like reset. But once you pick that ball up, your demeanor changes. You're confident. It doesn't bother you. And you roll that ball back calmly to the ref and you reset yourself. See, we tend to focus on what the child should not do in those situations. Don't throw your putter. Don't slump your shoulders. Let's focus on what your child can do when he or she makes a bad shot or loses. Physically practice that on the court over and over again until it becomes new muscle memory. I'd watch, if your child plays tennis, watch tennis matches on TV. Notice the body posture. Some tennis players have horrible body language. When they're losing, they'll yell up at their box where the coach is, and the opponent knows he's got that guy emotionally on the ropes. So maybe look up some stats on the percentage of matches that your favorite golfer has won, right? Or a percentage of putts that he misses. For baseball, it's pretty easy. A really good batting average is getting a base hit 1 out of 3 times. The idea is to normalize losing and reinforce it doesn't make your child a loser. It simply means they lost the match. And as you're doing this, try to teach patiently like it's someone else's kid rather than lecture impatiently, because your kids pick up on negativity and they will shut down. So just stay stoic. Hey, you can do this, son. It's hard, but this is what separates the greats from the mediocre players. the mental and emotional game. And by the way, that's pretty true about life too. So many bright, gifted people can't put their lives together. Number 3, it's just time. Some of this is simply maturity. You've just got to wait it out, be embarrassed in the stands, know that your child struggles, and it's going to be okay. By the way, I think I did this on another podcast, but in case you didn't listen to that one, should we ever let our kids quit sports? Yeah. I mean, if it was more of your idea than theirs, and you signed them up because, it'd be good if they played team sports. Most of your kids are not very good at team sports. They're really good at individual activities like rock climbing, gymnastics, wrestling, martial arts, swimming. Go toward that. But if your child just hates a sport, don't invest a lot of money in it. These kids quit stuff all the time. But you know what quitting is? Sometimes it's just making a smart choice. Hey, you don't like it. We don't really like it. It's not going well. And sometimes half of life is just knowing what you're not good at. So it's not going to send a message of like, we quit at things in life. Don't take it there. Just chill. So you do, number 4, you absolutely have the right to say, hey, if you don't practice losing well as much as you practice your actual stroke or shot, then you're simply not going to play. I have no problem with taking a tough line on this. You don't have to keep paying for expensive sports and traveling for your child to participate. I would want to try the above things first very patiently to try to get some progress on the emotional side of the game and your game too, right? Your parenting game. That's the big win in life anyway. If your child digs in and refuses, well then cut back on the tournaments until your child decides that he or she is going to work on this. But as you're doing it, be stoic and unemotional. So what do you do when your kids continually interrupt you while you're on the phone? That's a tough one. So we just moved into a new home with no landscaping. So we were thrilled to discover fast-growing trees. They take the hassle out of creating your dream yard. No more wasting your weekend driving around, being overwhelmed by big garden centers that don't have what you want. Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the US with thousands of different plants and over 2 million happy customers, including us. Get your plants delivered directly to your door in just a few days. Their Alive and Thrive guarantee ensures your plants arrive happy and healthy. Plus, you get support from trained plant experts on call to help you choose and care for the right plants. This spring, Fast Growing Trees has the best deals for your yard, up to half off on select plants. Plus, listeners to our show get an additional 15% off their first purchase when using the code CALM at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code CALM. fastgrowingtrees.com/CALM. Offers valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply. So Mrs. Calm told me yesterday, I wish I had begun drinking AG1 sooner. My stomach has felt so much calmer and I'm more regular. My AG1 in the morning provides some consistency I really crave. And that's one reason I love my AG1. It's an easy, healthy daily routine. No messes, no blenders. We put 1 scoop of AG1 into a bottle of water, shake it up, and start our day with 75 vitamins, probiotics, prebiotics, and whole food sourced ingredients. Check out a special offer at drinkag1.com/calm. Look, I've got more energy, better mental clarity, and AG1 supports my immune health. And that's why I've been partnering with AG1 for so long. Be an AG1 couple like us. AG1 is offering new subscribers a free $76 gift when you sign up. You'll get a welcome kit, a bottle of D3 and K2, and 5 free travel packs in your first box. So check out drinkag1.com/calm to get this offer. That's drinkag1.com/calm to start your day with a win. Okay, I'm going to answer 2 different questions with 2 different options for you. So, question, my 12-year-old freaks out when I'm talking on the phone and always wants to know who I'm talking to, or she butts into conversations between me and my husband. So here's the conversation I would have with your daughter, and I love this one. Hey, Sarah, we have boundaries in this home. I get to talk to Dad alone because he's my husband. I don't have to tell you who I'm on the phone with. Those are boundaries. But if you want to live without boundaries, I am so all over that. I can't wait for tomorrow. I'm going to ride the bus to school with you and sit right next to you. And we can walk down the hall together and I'll hold your hand. And lunch will be a blast, eating with you and your friends. And the best part will be after school when I can text with you and your friends all afternoon. I can't wait. And I promise your daughter will walk away and say, fine, Mom, keep your boundaries. I love that. Look, you can be tough with your kids. In that updated Discipline That Works program, there are 10 different discipline tools. The first 9 of them are very proactive, very positive, but the 10th one is all about tough discipline with your kids. I just want to do it with no drama. And this is partly from that program. So here's the other one. What do I do when my boys constantly interrupt me when I'm talking on the phone? So I like this a lot. Hey, boys, we follow the golden rule in our home, and that says treat others the way you want to be treated. So what you're telling me is that you want to be interrupted when you are watching your favorite TV show or playing your favorite video games. And then go do it. Follow through. Stand right in front of that screen. Talk. This is not being vengeful. It's not being like, you know what, you did this to me, I'm going to do it to you. No, it's just some of your kids will not get the message until they experience it firsthand. By the way, an awesome way to get your kids to leave you and your spouse alone is just to start kissing in front of them. It'll totally gross them out and maybe spark some closeness between you guys. Anyway, if that's a problem, go through the Calm Couples program. I just updated that as well. Okay, Dad wrote, okay, this is I'll just say, this is maybe a PG-13 one, just for some of you, so I maybe wouldn't let your kids listen to this one. It's nothing awful, but it's a little bit more mature. So a dad wrote and said, hey, our oldest daughter is 17 years old. She's a classic defiant child, always tried to live and experience things 10 years beyond her age. This week, she is now up that when I found a toy vibrator under her bed. How do I handle that? Okay, so here's my response. I know it can be alarming to a parent, but let me give you an alternative way of looking at this. She's a 17-year-old girl. She is possibly a very sensory kid. She knows it feels good to touch or be touched there. That's just human physiology. You know what, like I told the guy, I was like, you know what that was like when you were 15. And so some girls and boys discover this at a very young age. Don't freak out about this or shame a kid for it. Be a grown-up. Don't react out of your anxiety and get your kids to feel shame because they just figured out that it feels really good, because it does feel really good. Number 2, I was raised in a very conservative Christian community, so I understand the freak out here. But this can be very healthy. So she's an adolescent girl who likes how that feels. If she bought it for herself and uses that for pleasure or stress relief, that could be a very positive thing. It's way better than vaping, drugs, alcohol, edibles. It doesn't hurt anyone. It feels good. It releases stress. And what I'm getting to is I'm not justifying you. Handle it however you want, but don't freak out about these things and really give it some thought before you react and go in and create all kinds of drama and shame over it. Because she could just be using it for that. And that's way better than drinking and doing drugs. It's a great way to cope with stress. And here's perspective. My mother-in-law had her first kid at 15. She was having sex at a young age. So we don't have to freak out that as a 17-year-old is seeking pleasure when most of our ancestors were having sex like in their early teens or tweens. So here's more perspective. If your daughter is using this with a boyfriend, and yeah, I know that's hard to conceive of. As a dad, you don't even want to think about it. They may be using this instead of actual intercourse, and that would actually be a really smart choice. She can't get pregnant, less likely to get a disease that way. And I know there's some other things that could be going on as well, but this is a family podcast. I'm trying to point out that sometimes our initial reaction, if we just barge into the child's room, no matter how old they are, is usually just filled with our own anxiety and fear. But if we think beyond that, we can make this something constructive. Look, many women were never allowed to explore what felt good to them physically or sexually as girls or women. And later on, they could never really experience sexual pleasure as much as they wanted. And I know a lot of moms listening, you get that, right? So maybe your daughter is using this to discover what does feel good. So later on, I know this isn't your concern right now, especially as a dad, but later on she'll have more satisfying sex as a woman. So slow down. Get some perspective on this before bursting into her bedroom demanding to know, what are you doing with this? And then getting a look of contempt from your daughter. Don't you think it's pretty obvious what I do with that? Duh. This is a mom-daughter conversation, if one is even needed. Take your time on this so you don't make accusations and put her on the defensive. I would listen to this other podcast. It's called, it's one we did in August 28th of 2024. Tough Talks with Kids, Stealing, Sneaking Things at Night, Vaping, and Porn. Because I want you to use this as an opportunity to learn to teach, because that's what discipline means to me. So here's a good question. How can we improve focus in the classroom? Now, I've been through this in so many different episodes on tools to give your kids, but here are some things that you could actually help teachers with. And if you do have our programs, especially that part of the package ADHD University program, email us, because we can send that specific program to your child's teachers, and it is filled with practical ideas they can use. So here's a few. Because look, when you force a child to sit still and their bodies, look, your kids' bodies are craving sensory pressure, physical movement. Many times they'll spend that time preoccupied with moving and not actually hearing anything the teacher says. So all that energy and concentration you want on the lesson is instead put into not moving. Kids need to move and fidget and doodle appropriately. It's a great way to learn. It's good for them. So here are a few examples from real life classrooms where we taught all across the country. And you could share these with the child's teachers. We had a really great teacher in Atlanta. Noticed his teachers beginning to fade as spring weather bloomed outside. He decided to teach them how to skip count 6, 12, 18, 24, 7, 14, 21, 28. By having the students do a different exercise for each number. When counting by 6s, the students did jumping jacks. For 7s, they did squats. You want to know what blew this teacher away? Watching his students practice their new math skills at recess while jumping and squatting and moving. This is cool. We worked with this teacher in Michigan. She has kids move in slow motion to teach new skills, because that's more fun and it's a way to keep the kids focused but still moving. So when they were learning how to multiply fractions or memorize geography facts, they had to move in slow motions. Get kids moving, have them stand up, toss a ball. Like when you ask a question, toss them a ball, they have to catch it, toss it back. You can use stations. Some kids do really well standing in the back of class. Some kids do a really much better work if they're allowed to sit underneath their desk. You just put boundaries of like, hey, you don't get to touch other people's feet and distract anybody. We had a teacher in Austin, Texas, who trusts more energetic students to lead certain exercises, both physical and mental, to begin the day and sometimes in between subjects. So they play hangman, mind twisters, and Simon Says. By the way, Simon Says games, great for sensory needs. Simon Says, squeeze your elbows really tightly. Simon Says, touch your left knee with your right hand. You're moving across the midline of the body. Cross-brain stimulation, really good for focus. Give your students, especially those who like to chew, brain food, right? Good food that they can chew in class. We did this thing way back in the day in New York City public schools where gum was not allowed according to the city rules. And so we took in Wrigley's gum, but we didn't call it gum. We called it memory sticks because there are no prohibitions against memory sticks. And we gave it to the kids while taking tests. And the teacher would say, hey, I'm giving you this memory stick because it's going to help you remember all those things I taught you. Chewing, it has 3 benefits, and this is why I like you using it homework time, where a child can stand at the kitchen counter, listening to music, eating a snack. Chewing stimulates the brain. Just think how close the jaw is to the brain. It brings blood flow to the brain. It relieves anxiety. And it helps kids get into a rhythm when working and chewing at the same time. Plus, it helps some kids slow down rather than rushing through tests. Okay, I'm going to end it right there because that's enough for you today. So let's practice some of those things in your home. And even if it didn't apply directly, take the thought process behind it. Slow down. Think how your child's brain works. Work with their nature. Come up with creative ways to make this work. And if we can help you in any way, let us know. Hey, we love you, respect you for doing this hard work. Bye-bye.